let's talk about the Los Angeles Chargers. Look, obviously that debacle last Thursday night. Look, we're not even going to talk about that. We're moving on to the future. Obviously, the Chargers they fired GM Tom Telesco. They, of course, fired head coach Brandon Staley. They are looking for their next head coach, and there was a report out that they've identified and revealed their number one target. Let's go right into the report, and then we'll talk about it on the other side. This is according to Outkick.com. A source told Outkick that a Spanos family confidant, obviously Dean Spanos, the family owner, the Spanos family, the ownership group, acting outside the purview of the Chargers organization, but with an understanding he'd report back to the Spanos family, reached out to people connected to University of Michigan head coach Jim Harbaugh. The back channel connection was meant to gauge Harbaugh's interest in returning to the NFL. It's not known what message that communication yielded. All right, so first of all, I know a lot of people out there are going to see this and like, look, what's back channel communications? Is that worthless? What does that even mean? The answer is it is not worthless. It means a lot for two big factors. Number one, in the world of billionaires and millionaires, everything is back channel communications, right? You want to keep everything under the radar until it's time to narrow down the deal. That's when you bring in the lawyers. Everything is back channel. Look at Nick Saban when he went from Miami Dolphins to the Alabama Crimson Tide. For months, Nick Saban's like, I'm not going to Alabama. Well, all kinds of back channel communications were happening. It's very common in big time professional and college sports to use almost exclusively back channel communications. And here's a second reason why as well. There's tampering rules. There's all kind of laws and regulations. Harbaugh has some contract details that could cost him hundreds of thousands of dollars at Michigan if he goes public or directly negotiates with other parties. So again, this is how you get deals going. This is how you get deals started. I think it's very obvious. There's been reports this entire season that Harbaugh was gauging interest of returning to the NFL. The reports last year that Harbaugh was looking to go to the NFL. And I think the Chargers and the Spanos family targeting Harbaugh, I think that's a smart move. I think it's the right move. I think he is the coach they need to actually turn this franchise around. I think it's a great decision by the Spanos family. And I think there's a real chance that Harbaugh returns to the West Coast. Remember, he coached for the 49ers for a number of years. I think there's a real chance the Chargers get him here. Miles, I'm curious what your thoughts are on this move right here and this potential hiring of Harbaugh, the targeting of Harbaugh. But first, Chargers fans, look, who do you want to be your next head coach? Is Harbaugh your number one guy? Do you want Kellen Moore? Obviously, it's not even the interim guy, but maybe he gets elevated. Bill Belichick could be available. Ben Johnson, offensive coordinator, Lions, a lot of guys available. Let us know in the comment section below who you want to be the next Chargers head coach. But Miles, what do you think of the Chargers targeting Harbaugh here? Clearly, in my mind, making him their number one choice.
Yeah, Nick, I think the choice or lack of choice in interim coaches really speaks a lot of who the Chargers are targeting. I think it would be someone like Kellen Moore if they were looking to hire internally. I think they're looking externally, clearly by the comments here. They're looking at people, especially a guy like Jim Harbaugh, who I think is a phenomenal choice. I don't care if you're a college team or an NFL team, a high school team, rec league team. Jim Harbaugh will get your team to win games and get you to championships. That's what he's done through his whole career. He's probably one of the best college slash NFL coaches of all time. He's proved it time and time again. This guy, very interested. But I think this is good timing for the Chargers in the firing of Staley and potential going after Harbaugh. Because Harbaugh, I could see it both ways, Nick. I could see A, Michigan, they make it into college football playoffs as they had. They lose college football playoff, and Harbaugh's like, listen, I've done everything I could. I've gotten us there a couple of times. NCAA is just gunning for me left and right. There's so much drama. There's so much turmoil. I want to go back to the NFL and get out of this high school-esque college drama. I don't want to deal with this anymore. Or I can see the flip side of Harbaugh winning a national championship with Michigan. He goes, finally, I've done what I came to accomplish here. I got Michigan. I won the big game. I won the national championship. But again, the NCAA, they're gunning for me at every single corner. It's just too much for me to handle. I want to go back to the NFL where hopefully there is, better, less gunning or less backdoor trying to get him in trouble all the time. Because we all remember why Harbaugh left the 49ers in the first place. Butting heads with a GM. If he was to go to the Chargers, it sounds like a good situation where the GM has been fired as well. So Harbaugh will get a favorable GM to come in with him as well. But Nick, this is a really good move, and I think potentially the Chargers are on a good path, and I feel good despite the big loss. I think the Chargers are in a good spot potentially for next year to have some good results.
Well, especially Harbaugh, and you brought this up. You made two good points in your statements there. Harbaugh, throughout his career, whether college or the NFL, has been the greatest talent maximizer. He gets the best out of his teams wherever he goes, whether it was in San Francisco, whether it was in Stanford. Remember, Stanford was winning like New Year's Six bowl games and being a top 10 football program under Harbaugh, and of course now in Michigan. I don't think Michigan is as talented as programs like Ohio State, but they keep beating them year after year after year, and that's because Harbaugh is phenomenal at talent maximization. The Chargers, for the better part of the last decade and a half, have been the exact opposite. They've had talent, they just haven't gotten the wins out of that talent. And obviously, these last 3 seasons under Staley are a great example of that. But I think the most important fact that you highlighted is that Harbaugh, when he left San Francisco and left the NFL, was because he was butting heads with Jed York, who was, of course, the front office guy over there in San Francisco. The Chargers keeping the GM opportunity open, I think, would be really inviting to Harbaugh. He could potentially come in and maybe do like a Bill Belichick thing, be a GM and a head coach, or have a front office guy that really works for him. I think that would be very enticing for Harbaugh. And by the way, I don't think that would be a bad move. Harbaugh has proven himself to be a quality developer of NFL talent. Remember, he developed Andrew Luck. He's developed a lot of guys at Michigan, and he's also done a lot of great things drafting, developing in the NFL itself when he was with the San Francisco 49ers, and he played in the NFL. So he checks all the box in terms of being a quality front office guy if he needed to take on that role. I think that's exactly why Spanos is targeting Harbaugh, and it almost makes too much sense. The question is, will they be able to prime away from Michigan? And I think the fact that Michigan, like you said, has gotten the NCAA in its crosshairs, or the NCAA has Michigan in its crosshairs, excuse me, I think means that Harbaugh is looking for an out. I think the Chargers would be a great fit. He could go to LA, and I think they go from the team they are this year to probably a playoff team if they get Harbaugh into the fold. And I think this is why you fire people midseason. I know some people don't like it, but the reality is now the Chargers have the entire rest of the month of December in January before other teams start firing their guys to find their next head coach, to beat people to the punch. I think they're targeting Harbaugh, and I think there's a great chance they pull it off.
And one thing I want to get your last thoughts on, Nick. How perfect would a division like the AFC West be for Harbaugh to come to right now? Raiders, a little bit of turmoil. They're up and down. No one knows who the head coach will be. Sometimes an interim guy comes in. They play hot for a little while. That's interesting. The Chiefs, a little bit of a downswing right now. They don't look as dominant as they once were. A lot of, drama in the wide receiver offensive side of things. You look at the Chargers, they're obviously in a downturn as well, but the Denver Broncos, who knows what exactly is this Russell Wilson, Sean Payton magic? Is just a couple game hot streak because they've been up and down all season as well. It's a pretty open division despite what we first thought. So I think this would be a great situation competitively for Harbaugh to want to come into I have a great opportunity to take this Chargers team and maybe get a stranglehold over the AFC West if given the opportunity.